the immigration policies affecting Asians and people of color. So let's talk about that. Like, first, let's talk about your community. How has, because you guys, like right now, you guys aren't just facing this stuff the last 2 months. You guys have been facing this stuff for years now. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, 2 decades. The Cambodian community experience with deportation and immigration, it's really kind of unique and siloed because Cambodia was really one of the few countries to take deportees back. And it all started in the 1990s when Bill Clinton was in power. You know, he ran on as the Democrat who's tough on crime. And, you know, I just want to put it on record that no matter who is in power, Democrats or Republicans, conservative, liberals, left or right, it doesn't matter. These policies still affects us the same way, right? So when the 1990 crime, I'm not sure, I think it was 96 or something. Anyways, when the Clinton administration passed the crime bill to try to curb crime and reduce crime, you know, the American minorities, like the black communities, the Hispanic, Latino communities, experienced the school to prison pipeline, whereas Cambodians and some Southeast Asians experienced the school to prison, the deportation pipeline. So our community was really swept up under that law. So when that law was enacted, you were able to go back to past convictions since you're not a citizen and get punished twice. So a lot of these crimes that the Cambodian community fell under was crimes that was already committed like 10, 15 years ago, and they've already served their time. But since they weren't citizens, and since the crime was deportable, they were on a deportation, right? And then as time progresses, we had a community member here in Seattle, his name is Manny Ut. He's my OG, Bang Mani. He was the first one to go through the process. He was the first one to fight his convictions, the first one to get a pardon, the first one to, you know, be on a path to citizenship. So he has a wealth of knowledge. And then as time progresses, 2005, 2010, 2016, you know, we call Obama the deporter in chief. But the difference between the Democrat administrations and the Republican administrations of deportation processes, I think Obama's administration respected the law, respected due process. So everybody had their day in court to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can see this current administration happening today, they're just snatching folks off the streets. Unidentified ICE agents with masks on, not identifying themselves, snatching you up and just throwing you in detention without any process, you know? So my message to the folks who are celebrating seeing these students and these activists getting snatched up without due process, I just want you to remember, if you're a citizen and you're celebrating these things and you're celebrating the lack of due process, the due process is the part where you get to prove your citizenship. So I'm a citizen, naturalized citizenship. If I was to get snatched by ICE walking out this building and they don't allow me due process, they can just throw me in detention forever and not give me an opportunity to prove myself, prove that I've been here, prove anything. So they can just send me and detain you indefinitely. And they have an incentive to do that because the GEO group who runs these detention centers are contracted by the government. So every head, every bed they fill, they get money. So they don't have an incentive to have you leave, to have you get out of the prison. So it's just a whole clusterfuck, man.
So how much are they getting per head? Do you know?
I don't know what the numbers are, but it's enough to keep folks in prison.
And I heard that Cambodia, they get a bonus per head they send back, right?
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I think in the early 2000s, I don't know the numbers. I don't want to, espouse information, but there's definitely an incentive for Cambodians to take refugees back. But in the early 2000s, there wasn't any infrastructure to accept deportees back. You have to imagine these guys grew up here since they were 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
Spent their whole lives in the United States, lost the language because they were learning English, and then they go back and then they're in prison in Cambodia. They get released. They don't have any family. They don't speak their language. They can't work. And, a lot of the early deportees in our community just really had an unfortunate situation where they would get into drugs. A lot of them commit suicide. And, today there's infrastructure there. There's NGOs there that will receive deportees.
And NGO stands for what?
A non-governmental organization.
Yeah, NGO, yep.
Yep. And there's a lot of programs out there that would help deportees today that will get them IDs, get them jobs. And, I don't want to say there's a silver lining, but being in America for so long, getting deported to Cambodia, and you speak the English language, it kind of gives you an advantage and benefit now. There's a lot of more opportunities than there was in the early 2000s. So, I mean, there's some silver lining there, but, you know, separating families is just re-triggering the trauma of war, because you've been displaced and separated from your families in the 70s, and you come here, now you're trying to get your life, once you got your life back together, now you're being uprooted from your family again, and that's the ripple effects of that is just
right.
damaging.
It's to me it's crazy. Like growing up in America, especially growing up in the poverty.
Sure.
We had to get ahead. So you know, some of us sold some marijuana, some of us stole cars.
Yeah.
Some of us had to protect ourselves, so we joined gangs from the other neighborhood gangs.
Yeah.
And so we had to, you know, have a little stuff, get ahead a little bit. And, you know, stuff that you do at 16, 17, 18 years old it's you make bad decisions at 16. So, and fine, you get arrested, have a felony, pay your time, do your time.
Yeah.
And then after you get out, because you're Cambodian, you know, they...
Or even Vietnamese, any Southeast Asian, not just Cambodian.
Yeah. But back then, they didn't take back Vietnamese. I'm talking about the Cambodians. They took them back, right?
Yeah.
And then you're a whole different country,
yeah,
right? With like no support. And Cambodia is, you know, it's a hard country to grow up in if you're from America,
especially
period,
back then.
right? No family. And so you guys been dealing with that for a long time, like our Cambodian brothers and sisters. But now it's hitting home for us Vietnamese, right? Like, so 2 months ago when this administration came on, you sent us the article that Vietnam is now taking back people with felonies.
Yes.
Right? People that have a record. And they haven't, and the reason why you said they're taking them back because the Trump administration is saying in Vietnam, if you don't take people back, we're gonna put tariffs on your exports.
Yep.
So, you know, the Vietnamese government's like, oh, we don't want no tariffs, you know?
Right.
So we'll start taking them back.
Yeah.
So I think any time now, within this time or the next couple of weeks, they're gonna start taking them back, which is insane for our community, because we've been hearing about Southeast Asians getting sent back to Cambodia, but we never thought it would be Vietnamese people.
Right.
But now it's hitting home to, you know, our families, our community, our circles.
Yeah.
So, man, let's talk about that. What can we do to fight against that and protect our people?
Any guidance? I mean, you've been through it these years now.
I think if you have anybody, family members, friends in your community members who are on the list to get deported or an order of removal, and even if checking in with ICE, because, you know, a lot of folks have been checking in with ICE their whole lives, and usually it's just a quick check-in, see how you're doing, make sure you're not committing
crimes. It's like
crimes.
a yearly check-in, right?
It depends what your crime is, how severity.
Some
folks check in every 3 months, some folks check in every 6 months, some folks check in once a year, some folks check in once every 10 years. But yeah. But what we can do now is really just to connect with organizations like the Northwest Immigrants' Rights Projects.
Okay.
In Seattle, we have the Seattle Clemency Project.